Hey y'all, welcome back to this week's episode of AMA Friday with Amy Miller, Recruiting in Yoga Pants. So, I've been talking about this all week. We are finally addressing the topic of offers being pulled over negotiating. So, a job seeker has come back and asked for more money, and the company said, we don't want you anymore, and they pull the offer. I want to set some intentions first for this week's video. I think it is very important for me to do my absolute best to try to approach this topic with empathy, with understanding, with acknowledgement that there are nuances to all of this, and different companies and different recruiters and different just situations are going to obviously have different outcomes. I do, however, believe that it is very important for recruiting to align on one simple thing, and that is we have a responsibility as part of our job to be an advocate for both sides of the process. I've said a million times, I learned this from one of my former bosses at Microsoft, who was an absolutely wonderful manager and human being, Michelle. She taught me sometimes good consulting looks like bad customer service. That was after I said no to a director, and he didn't like that. So escalation probably isn't a strong enough word for how that went, but I think about that often, and I think about how that shows up in this particular instance during negotiations, and being the voice of the candidate and working with our hiring managers, HR, compensation, approvers, whoever's involved in this process, and making sure that we are all operating from the mindset of doing what is best for, yes, the company, of course, but also for our candidate. So I feel like when we lose sight of that, and we err too far on the side of the customer's always right and giving the hiring manager or the company what they want, we risk the other side of our job, which is advocating for and taking care of our candidates. All right, now that I've gotten that off my chest, let's talk about this specific situation. So some of you may have seen the post that kind of inspired this, and I'm not picking on any particular person. I'm not pointing out any specific post here. It just happened to come up recently, which obviously brought up a lot of thoughts and feelings about it. But it's not the first time we've heard it. It's not going to be the last until recruiters, well, get their act together. But anyway, so the conversation essentially was a recruiter who was admonishing job seekers and telling them, if you have agreed to a number and you get an offer with that number, you should just accept it, because not once, not twice, but 3 times, according to her, 3 candidates got the offer that they had aligned on, the number they'd agreed to. They pushed back, they asked for more money, and not once, not twice, but 3 times, 3 different companies, the company withdrew the offer. They pulled the offer because, according to this recruiter, these 3 different companies saw a quality in the job seeker that they didn't like. Now, unfortunately, we did not get any clarity on what that quality was. Based on the limited information I have, I'm going to assume that that quality was, this is a job seeker who is advocating for themselves and trying to not leave money on the table. I don't think that's bad quality, but perhaps I'm in the minority. I don't know. However, in the spirit of wanting to be helpful, I'm going to try to give you some things to consider and some ways to ask the right questions and understand the possibilities when it comes to negotiating. First thing I want you to know, job seekers, there is a lot of bad advice out there. I've seen it said over and over and over again that no matter what, you should negotiate an offer. No matter what, doesn't matter how great the offer is. If you asked for 100K and they came in with 200K, don't you be a sissy and settle for 200K. You go ask for 250. Are you serious? Are you serious? So no, friends, not every offer needs to be negotiated. Now again, is that going to happen? Probably not. I'm being a little silly with that. But the idea that there's just this blanket rule that you simply must negotiate is ludicrous and gets some of you in trouble, to be very frank. So understand your yes number, your strongly consider number, and your walk away number. And if you are prepared to negotiate, and sometimes you should, sometimes you don't need to. I try to always lead with the best possible offer and make it so that my candidates don't have to jump through these silly hoops and play these silly games. But I don't always get it right. Sometimes new information has come up. There might be competing offers. There could be any number of things. I absolutely understand and respect that my candidates are in control of their own job search destiny, and they have every right to ask me, is this negotiable? What if I asked for more? So on and so forth. Like there's a lot of ways to ask that question. So first of all, determine, do I even need to negotiate? Is that even, am I happy with this? Have they exceeded my expectations? Am I comfortable with the offer they're giving me? If so, absolutely okay to say yes. However, maybe you've got a little tingle in the back of your head, right? Like, oh, I don't know. I just feel like this could be better. And boy, I'd feel really good if I got just a little more something. You may be feeling that. Totally okay. So here's what you do. You go back to the recruiter and you ask. And the way that you ask can matter. Not going to try to convince you there's a one-size-fits-all approach. I'm not going to try to convince you that this is a magic template. I just want to give you some food for thought. Think about how to say this in a way that is comfortable for you and that fits your communication style, or don't use it at all. That's fine. But what I would recommend is you approach the recruiter like you two are a team. Y'all are besties in this process, okay? And that recruiter wants you to get the job as badly as you want to get the job because that's how they get paid, right? We talked about that as well. If you're on commission, you want to fill that role. Even if you're corporate and your paycheck isn't tied to it, I promise you my paycheck's tied to actually doing my job, which is filling roles. So if we get someone to an offer, best believe it is in my best interest to help you find the reasons to say yes. So here's what you're going to do. Hey, recruiter. Thank you so much for the offer. I really appreciate it. I see that, we've landed at the number you and I had originally talked about, which is great. However, I just have to ask, in your professional opinion, as someone who works closely with the business, as someone who knows this team well, as someone who has expertise that I don't have, how do you think the organization would react if I were to negotiate? You're not asking for more money. You're asking for an understanding of how they may react. Now, a good recruiter will say, I got to be honest with you. I think the total compensation is probably the max we're going to get. However, tell me what's most important to you. Maybe I can get you a little more equity, or if I got you more cash and I lost a little equity, how would you feel about that? Like, it's okay. And I do this a lot too, to have those conversations. Ultimately, recruiters have a responsibility to create the offer that everybody feels good about. So you should be able to frame your question in a way that opens up the recruiter to be able to share what's possible. And if you also, again, knowing your walkaway number, if you are willing to lose that offer or turn down that offer, you can be a little more firm. You still want to be kind. You still want to be, friendly in your communication. Nobody wants to work with a jerk. But you can say, hey, I really appreciate that you got me the number that we had originally talked about. Here's some new information. Okay, some things have changed. I've done some research. I see that the benefits are going to be way more out of pocket costs than I anticipated. Remind me to tell you that story someday. And so, now after learning everything and really inspecting everything, unfortunately, I won't be able to accept at this rate, but I would happily accept at whatever your new number is. Now, please be clear that you are now saying, I'm going to walk away at this rate. And if you're ready to do that, that's okay. Be clear on that. But if there's still a possibility that this rate could potentially work, but yet you still need to just kind of scratch that itch and make sure you're not leaving money on the table, asking in a more kind of like, we're in this together kind of way will probably go a long way. It's very much like you get a lot more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, right? If you come in guns blazing, oh, I can't believe you're insulting me with this offer. I really deserve blah, blah, blah because I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. No recruiter's going to fall for that. Well, some might. I wouldn't. I'd be like, okay, sliced bread, your offer expires in 2 days. Good luck. I'm not going to pull it. I'm not going to pull the offer. I'm going to let you decline it. But there is a way to approach this in a way that puts you and the recruiter on the same side, and that is the key. Now, I understand a lot of people are going to watch this video and think that I'm advocating for, you kissing up to a recruiter or, playing a game or whatever, and I'm really not. I'm simply trying to frame the communication in a way that will get the recruiter on your side. They should be on your side already. They should have been on your side the whole time. But we've seen evidence to the contrary, unfortunately, straight from some recruiters' mouths. All right, friends, that is my advice for job seekers, for my recruiter friends who might be watching. I'm going to encourage you to think carefully about what the hiring manager actually needs to know about your conversations. I think it is one thing to go back and say, hey, hiring manager, this is a great offer. And as we discussed, we had settled on this number at the beginning of the conversation. I do want you to know that sometimes candidates change their mind. And there could be new information that comes up in the course of extending this offer. And I just wanted to see what's your appetite for negotiating if that were to come up. You don't need to tell them that the candidate's already pushing back. You just need to ask the right questions. How would you feel if this person asked for more money? Would you be comfortable if we tried to increase this or that? And if it's a flat out no, there's your answer. But you've done that without going to the hiring manager going, oh my God, can you believe they just asked for more money? Ugh, what do you think? Well, of course that's going to set up a negative. Of course that's going to get the hiring manager going, what? We made a great offer. What the heck? Pull it. Don't set that up. You know how to do this. You know how to have these grown-up conversations, and you know how to provide the right information in the right way to get everybody where they need to be. All right, friends. Thank you for watching. I feel pretty good about this one. I didn't swear, I don't think. Very difficult. Check out the FAQs. I have salary FAQs on the website, recruitinganyogapants.com. Click the little button for templates and FAQs. It's all there for you. I will do a little refresh of that and add some of this context as well. So check it out. As always, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next week.